if we float in now to just discuss food, okay? It's the easy stuff now. I mean, how many calories do you eat a day?
Oh, that varies also, and I'm not a really big eater, but it could be, I've had 4,000 some calorie diets at times.
Mm-hmm. Before a contest, that usually eat something closer to what?
As far as
calories, total calories?
It's around, I eat more in contest than
more
in
before
off
contest?
season. Yeah.
When you're taking the GH, can you eat anything you want? I mean, do you eat ice cream, cake, cookies, candy, all kinds of stuff, and get in shape?
I tend to like a cookie or so.
So you can eat more.
I can eat more cookies per week, yeah.
Okay.
Every couple of days, or sometimes every day, I gotta have a cookie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you'll eat more junk food, if you will, just to keep you from feeling wasted.
Keep your sanity, yeah.
Okay. In regards to like normal off season versus on season, the calories may change, but as far as ratios of protein, carbohydrates, and fats, do you record those things?
I've done it before, yes. Lately, I've just been going by what I see in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I wake up, I make the day before, and I know how to repeat what I'm doing. And if I need to make change, then I would raise or lower my carbohydrates, or raise or lower my proteins.
In terms of grams, I mean, any idea how many grams of protein you consume a day, off season versus on season?
It can go up to like between 300 to 500.
Wow.
In the
protein
season.
300 to 500 grams of protein.
Right, of protein.
Okay, and then in the season.
During season.
And then also in
off season is probably lowers more carbohydrates than off season.
I see.
Than anything, and then.
So the carbohydrates actually go lower in season.
Right.
So they would be like gram-wise.
Low. I'm not exactly sure gram-wise because there's really a few cups of rice in the morning, okay. and in the evening a couple of potatoes or something like that. But in between there is just all protein.
Mm-hmm. And that's like 8 weeks out?
And vegetables. From,
yeah.
At least, yeah.
Okay, okay. And then fat, probably gram-wise.
Fat, I would consider it medium. I would eat steaks, and I also eat like avocados and even some like MCT oil, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So the fat's more moderate as you would consider it.
Yeah, exactly. High protein, moderate fats, and low to medium carbohydrates.
Mm. So the way what I'm hearing from you used to count earlier on when you're earlier in your career. Now you go by instinct and feel.
Right.
Pretty much know. Interesting. It's almost like being an artist to some degree, isn't it? Sort of.
Yeah, you can, after a while, you can sort of, manipulate what your body's going to do just by what you eat the day before, and, those 2 days, and you're going to see a change.
Mm-hmm. The sport of bodybuilding is my neighborhood. It's where we come from, and I would never want to do anything to really, damage or expose dirty laundry. My goal here is not to expose dirty laundry of our sport or anybody else's sport from this video, but merely to use as an educational source of material to where the up-and-coming guy can go, here's the way it really is, and here's somebody that's on top, and in fact, this guy's on top. You don't know who he is, but he's on top, okay? Mm-hmm. And he's telling you the way he really sees it, the way he really feels about it, and he does have concerns about his health, and in fact, all the guys I spoke to today have concerns about their health, and they're looking at it as a benefit to risk ratio, and it's what's necessary to do to compete in today's arena. Some guys felt that they needed to, it was getting too far out of hand, like yourself, it was too far out of hand as it's getting crazy, and but most of the top guys seem to have a control. They're like not nuts as people, as much as the amateurs are who are viewing the pros going, more is better. It's in fact, more is better to a point, as I'm hearing it most of the day, but it's like, I'm seeing it, there's a centeredness, and there's a regime and a focus and a controlled method of approaching the drugs, and you're concerned with health, and there is episodes you may have run into, you don't want to have that happen again, so you seek the advice about testing and doctors and so on. which is you know, interesting, I think, for the fans should hear. I mean, the up-and-coming guys should hear that it's not just take everything you get your hands on and hope for the best, you know.
Right.
But again, the reason we're doing this forum, I'm speaking to the audience at this point, the reason we're doing this is not to expose anyone, not to expose dirty laundry of any sport, especially the sport that we all come from, but to merely serve as an educational tool in hopes that there'll be less abusive procedures, maybe less use, to the point to where it's a healthier, cleaner approach to a sport in general. And I'm just to the point now where I don't want to see any more of my friends' lives endangered, mostly amateurs' friends' lives endangered. And I really am, some of you may disagree, but I'm very happy and pleased to address the issues in terms of honesty. And I think we should do more of that rather than just avoiding the issue and talking about the issue as if it doesn't exist. It does exist, and the various men you heard spoke today on this tape, I commend and I thank very much for providing this insight into the reality of the sport, and hopefully we can make a difference, and we have made a difference in the way you see things. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. My first question basically would be, what situation in your life or what specific circumstance brought you to the need or the feeling or the desire that, what really made you feel that you had to take steroids in order to compete? Or was there a particular time in your career that you felt that that was the case?
It wasn't really like a need to or like I had to. It's more like a personal choice, because I'd won a few national titles beforehand and done a few shows, and then as the level got harder, the guys were getting bigger, so it came down to more of a should I or shouldn't I, or just do it for an experiment. And I just decided I'd give it a go, take a small dosage, see how it affected me. So it wasn't like I had to, because I was winning shows anyway without them beforehand, and I trained for like 5 or 6 years before I even done my first course on steroids. So it's like one of those things, after competing at such a high level, I just want to go ahead and give it a go and see how they worked.
Now, you mentioned you were competing 5 or 6 years before you took steroids. So how old were you when you first started taking steroids?
I was 19.
19. Since we're speaking about steroids at this point, what specific steroids do you find effective in your training?
I've always stuck to the basic, like Deca was the very first one I used when I was 19, and put on 20 pounds, did a 6-week course on it. That's all I used, like 2 cc's a week. I found I put on 20 pounds. Yeah, sure you carry some water weight with that, but then even now I stick to the basics like Deca, Prima Bowl, and I don't like test it or stay away from testosterones, but they're just the basics like that. So I've never really delved into the science. You know, some guys like stacking 6 or 7, but I've always and always 2.
Like in terms of some of the drugs you just mentioned, steroids you just mentioned, specific dosages. Could you give us some idea of what specific dosages you use prior to a show and how long you use these dosages?
I'm getting ready for a contest. I normally start dieting 12 weeks out, so I'll start with maybe like Stol, which is the same as Winstrol. I'll take like 2 cc's every 3 days. Then sometimes I get sick of taking a needle, so I might increase it to every 4 or 5 days. So I hate being a pin cushion. And then I was taking 1 Anadrol 50 a day, because like they're one of the worst on your liver, so I hate using them, but yet for keeping the size and strength they're good, but I only take 1 a day of them. And I was taking 2 IUs of growth hormone every day for the last 6 weeks, and then just Nolvadex to cut the fluid down a bit. That's about all, getting ready for a contest.
Okay, so how about in the off season then? Would you take
off season I don't use too much. It's more like I rely more on food and heavy training. Like I normally go like maybe 5 months before I do another course in the off season. Then I'll just take the basic like Deca, 2 cc's of Deca, and 2 cc's of Prima for 8 weeks. Then I might go off it for another 3 months before I do something else. So I've never really been a big believer. Like people get the mentality where you need steroids to grow, you need steroids for this, but if you get that in your mentality, then they can't train without them. Whereas I might just use them for like an assistance rather than rely on them. That's why at contest time I might take a little bit more, because I'm doing more training, I'm doing more cardio. So like even with dieting, you cut your food back, so recovery becomes harder. So the drugs mainly help me more for recovery than anything.
Is there a certain time during the year, now you mentioned it was 4 months prior to a show, you start getting ready?
Normally 3 to 4 months before a contest I'll start preparing. And then I'll start, as soon as I start my diet and start restricting the food, I'll just start on one steroid like stanozol, get the size and strength I'm cutting back calories. Then maybe like 6 weeks before the show, that's when I start the growth hormone. And then like 8 weeks I'll put the anadrol in, 8 weeks before the show. I just slowly, I don't take them all at once from the beginning. I just slowly start on one, then increase the other. And as the show gets near, I start tapering off them again.
Well, it brings up a point prior to the show. Do you stop taking steroids completely at a certain point, or do you continue steroids through the show?
Normally a week or two before I'll stop them. I'm just so sick of taking them anyway because I don't really feel, sometimes my stomach feels sick when I'm on them and you know, I can't sleep sometimes, so I just look forward to stop taking the needles. So the sooner the better for me, because if the show comes close, I just can't wait to get off them. So normally like a week or two before I'll stop them altogether.
Yeah, depending upon the number of shows I guess you enter per year will determine how long you're on steroids for that year. Is there any specific time you don't take steroids, or a number of months, weeks that you don't take steroids at all during the year?
Normally when I do my contests I try to group them all together so the shows are pretty close together. But then like after a show, like a big show I did last year, I didn't touch them again for like 7 months. I just went totally off them. I had like maybe a shot of Deca twice because I had like sore elbows, so mainly just for the joints I took 2 shots of Deca, but that was about it for the whole 7 months.
So your doses are actually quite low compared to what I think people think about.
Very low. I've read magazines where they say, you know, guys use it, professionals use these large amounts, and we just sit there and we laugh about it. You know, we read it, you know, we spend 40,000 a year, 50,000 to get ready for a contest, and it's like, you know, bodybuilders, you know, people say we're dumb, but we're not that stupid. It's like, you know, if the prize money's 10,000, who's going to spend 50,000 to get ready for a contest? So.
Yeah, well, in fact, one of the guys I was talking to earlier mentioned that, you know, times 15 on or up to 50 and even $100,000 a year. And that's, you don't do anything like that,
Now, I can tell you from my past experience, my last show I did, a big contest, I didn't spend any more than $2,000. That's only because I started using a bit of growth hormone, which I've never used prior to 2 years ago. But before then, I wouldn't spend any more than $600 to get ready for a show.
Do you find the growth hormone to be the magic substance that it's touted to be?
Not really. It's like people say it's a wonder drug, but before I started using it, you know, I'd come in great shape, I'd come in hard and full. And I started using it, I'm not sure whether, because I'm growing too each year I'm like 10 pounds heavier. So it's like whether, you know, come contest time I might be a bit fuller on stage, whether that's from the growth or not, because I've come in shape without it and I've come in shape with using it. So whether it just adds to help keep that size, I'm not sure. So it's hard to say, because when you're using the growth, you're using other ones with it. So it's hard to say whether the growth is doing anything. You probably have to take the growth by itself to see whether it did anything or not, because if you're mixing drugs together, it's hard to say what's working, what isn't working. So.
True. Have you taken the by itself?
No,
okay.
I haven't, sir.
How about insulin? Is that something that goes along with GH?
I've never tried. I know a lot of guys that do, but to me, you know, I've spoken to a doctor before, and he says for the small difference it makes, it's not worth the risk. You know, you become a diabetic. Some people take too much and go into comas. So for me, like the risk and that, it's not worth it. So I've never really messed around with insulin.
Well, did you have any scary episodes with things you may have taken?
One time I brought some contaminated stuff, you know, because you know, once it's been pushed to the black market, you get guys out there who'll bottle anything to sell. The steroids had some stuff that was contaminated and got blood poisoning, so I sort of in bed for a week and couldn't walk, and you know, had to take antibiotics and get shots for that. So stuff like that sort of makes you scared if you're buying stuff off the black market or stuff from different people, because it can be anything. They could be selling cooking oil for all you know, or the stuff could be put together in someone's dirty room. So stuff like that always scares you, because it does happen. There was a case a couple of years ago where a guy died because he thought he was using growth hormone, but it was actually insulin. Someone sold him insulin too much and went into a coma and died. So people do anything to make money these days, so it's always scary.
I guess you got to be careful upon, you know, where your sources
exactly,
are.
So. But you know, the stuff I got came from a friend, so yeah, but he could get off somebody else. So it's a risk you take, I guess, when you do any sport, really. So you know, whether you're a car driver, whatever, you can hop into a car and race around and get killed. So it's just one of those things. You know, it's luck of the draw. Sometimes it's going to be bad, sometimes it'll be good. But you know, if you get the bad stuff, you know, it can kill you straight away.
I mean, other than getting impure products or bogus products or counterfeit products, Are there anything? How do you feel about the whole sport in general, as far as the steroid issue? Is it something you wasn't there, or it is there and you just tolerate?
Sometimes you wish it wasn't there, but it's like, I guess with any sport it's going to be there. It's just that sometimes bodybuilding is like the poster child for steroid use. You know, footballers use it. You know, the Chinese swim team used it. Like any sport you go for, everyone uses it. Just because bodybuilding looks so different, we get pointed at the most as being big users because, you know, people that use steroids don't look like us. They're like, well, they must be using more, they must be taking more. You know, but it's like, at CS, I just accept it, you know. You've got the choice. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. You know, there's shows out there to compete in where you don't have to use it, but if you're good enough without it, you can compete with guys that use it. Well, more luck to you. So one of those things going to have a preference. You know, you can tell people the bad effects, you can tell them the good effects. It's like drinking or smoking. You're going to make your own choice whether you want to use it or not. You know, your parents say, I don't want you ever touching it, yet a kid will go and use it anyway. That comes down to personal preference on if you want to try it, you can. If not, well, don't do it.
How about other items or drugs like diuretics? Is there something that you feel works in terms of bodybuilding application?
Well, I think they do work because, you know, get a little bit of water you got left, but then too there's some out there like Lasix I tried and I felt like near death trying Lasix, just like took everything out of me. But they've got some milder ones out there where you can use them which spares potassium, which I find work well, but even now they've got natural herbal lyrics I've experimented with, and the herbal ones sometimes work just as good. Sure, they're not exactly as great, but yet they do the same job without the serious side effects, you know, where you're draining all the minerals out of your body, because you're at a fine state anyway, your body fat's down, you hardly got no minerals left in your body, and if you just drain everything out, that's where a lot of the deaths come from, because you just drain everything out and you have a heart attack or just shut down.
What kind of dosages have you taken of some of the diuretics in terms of the
I use like the aldactone or aldactazide. I just take like half of one, maybe 2 days before a show, or like maybe a 20 milligram one. Then the night before a show, I'll take a whole one. So you don't really need high amounts of diuretics for them to work. So just that, you know, if you've been cutting back your water for 3 or 4 days before a show, and then you take it, excuse me, that might drain everything you've got. But I always keep my fluid high.
Regarding diuretics, it's, so sometimes you use herbals and sometimes you would use the aldactone or the aldactazide.
Yeah.
But it seems like, from what I hear you saying, it's like you use very little amounts of all the bodybuilding esoteric drugs.
Well, I've always been that way since I started. I've always used small amounts. I found a small amount work. You know, one time I did try a large amount and it made no difference in the small amount. So ever since then, I've always just stuck to the small amount because. You know, if you start using large amounts, the only one who's going to benefit is the guy who's selling it to you because he's making more money because you're using it quicker. But yet, you know, 2 cc's to me works just as good as what 10 cc's does. But some people get the impression, well, if I'm taking 2 cc's and I gain 20 pounds, you know, 6 cc's I'll gain, you know, twice that much, 3 times the amount, you know, the more I take. But it doesn't work that way.
Well, based upon the fact you take small amounts, would this be a suggestion? Not that we're in this particular video are we making suggestions or recommendations for drug use at all. We're merely confronting the issues. But in terms of the viewers and the younger people coming up, younger guys and coming up, listening to this, your basic thoughts would be less is more.
Yeah, I've always found it better when everyone I speak to, I tell them that, but yet some people got it in their mind that they need large amounts because so many people tell them, you know, the pros take this much, the pros take that much, but yet the pros don't. Nearly every amateur I've met takes twice the amount as a pro does, but because we're bigger than they are, say they're taking 1,500 milligrams and we're bigger than them, they're thinking, well, the pro's taking 3,000 milligrams, but yet, as I said, I take maybe 200 milligrams a Deca, 200 milligrams of Prims, that's milligrams a week. I get good results from that, so you don't need large amounts. It's like more is not better. It doesn't do anything. It's just a waste of money, and then I'd rather spend that little bit on drugs, which I'm going to use, than spend the rest of the money on food, because you know the food's going to work, so just train heavy on that. But you know, people want to get a quick fix straight away. They want to get huge overnight, but building muscle takes years. So like, I'd recommend training, you know, 5 to 6 years before you even decide to use steroids. It's like, it's one of those things, you've got to build a foundation first, and then maybe if you want to experiment and try them, you know, go ahead, but you know, don't go crazy thinking you're going to get big overnight and take large amounts, because probably going to end up sick or dead. You know, it's not going to make you any bigger taking a large quantity.
So you're not suggesting, or are you, that steroids are a magic form?
Far from it. Like if you haven't got the genetics, if you haven't got the willpower or the determination upstairs, you can take all the drugs you want, you're never going to get anywhere, you know. The guys who are champions today, any sport would be there without drugs or not, you know, like Ben Johnson, he still won the race without them steroids. It's like, excuse me, it's just that, you know, he was using stenazole. Like I used stenazole before contests. I probably took more than him, but yet I could never beat him. He said the drug certainly didn't make him run fast. It's like, maybe when you look at bottles, like a bottle of stenazole, you see for animals, horses. Now a horse that's like 800 pounds more takes 2 cc's every 2 weeks. So it's like bodybuilders getting ready for shows will sometimes take 2 cc's every 2 days. And I'm thinking, like, if we're humans who weigh, you know, 200 pounds, what are we taking 2 meals every 2 days worth of horse? Only needs, you know, 2 meals every 2 weeks. You know, it just comes down to common sense. So.
I understand that the current shows are only tested in terms of diuretics. Are there, how do you get around that? Are there masking agents or?
Like I said, I'd start taking the herbal diuretics. There are diuretics out there now that you can take it, it'll be out of your system in 6 hours. So there's always going to be a masking agent, but then masking agents too can add to the danger because people take more stuff to try and cover up what they're taking, which can either counteract or, you know, not mix well. Or some of the counter agents can be more dangerous than the steroids themselves. So even with the diuretics, yeah, but if you stick to the herbal ones, you can do okay. But now diuretics that you can take the night before and next morning you can pee clean. So
and there's no trace of taking diuretic. I see. How about other esoteric drugs like esquiline?
I've tried esquiline like in the off season once just to see what it did, and you know it hurt a lot. I couldn't train properly with it, so you know swells the muscle up, it inflamed the muscle red. So I'm thinking, what's the point? You know, for the little bit of improvement it gives you, it's not worth it. Then a couple of days later it goes away. So for a contest, people like to use it, you know, to put a little bit more height on their bicep or in their rear delt or calf, but yet it covers up all the definitions. Like to me, it's like if you go on stage and you're more defined, it's all an illusion on stage. You're going to look bigger anyway. If you smooth that body part out, you know, it's just going to look sort of soft and watery. So I'd rather keep the definition, have the illusion of looking bigger, rather than trying to inject something. You know, it's like I think too, anything that you put in your body that inflames the muscle and does that to it, it can't be good for the body if you're inflaming it with an injection. So I tried that once and didn't like it. It hurt too much and it went all red and got hot. So it's like, it doesn't seem like a good thing to me.
Are there any specific mistakes you've ever made that you'll never do again in terms of?
Maybe, like I injected it into my calves once and then I got the blood poisoning, hit a nerve and all that sort of stuff. So I normally stick to probably the buttocks area or the shoulder there because people go through that stage where, you know, if you inject it into that muscle's going to grow bigger. But it's like, you know, people forget the buttocks is really a muscle. The glutes area is a muscle. So if that was the case, there'd be guys out there with glutes the size of a bus. Because, you know, people inject so much into it.
That's true, yeah.
It's like, it doesn't work that way, so it's like I just put in those areas. So people make mistakes by trying to put it in different body parts and hit nerves and do stuff like that. Then I heard of people inject it straight into their vein, which is dangerous doing that, because if you're going to inject into the vein, you've got some contaminated stuff. Well, you'll get to your heart quicker than anything, and then you're dead. So there's only just mistakes like that people will make. You know, sometimes they'll keep injecting in the same spot, and they'll get a cyst there or a boil and have to get it cut out or removed and get a lot of scar tissue. So there are bad side effects, but...
Ever happened to yourself as far as injecting in the same site?
I always keep it moving around, plus I never use large amounts in the same area. There's only guys who'll put like maybe 10 cc in the one injection in the one spot, have this big great ball there, and because it won't break down and move through the muscle, just sits there, and then it turns into a cyst or an abscess, so they've got to get it cut out.
How about any effects like gynomastia?
I had that from a young age myself, naturally. So I had a high level of testosterone, so at the age of 13 I had one cut out naturally, so I could like excrete stuff out of my
So at 13?
nipple.
At 13 you had one cut out, so,
yeah. So
you weren't taking steroids?
No, I just had a high natural level of testosterone. So it's like it just grew naturally, but I've never had them from drugs.
Well, some of the newer non-drug-like items, over-the-counter items like andro, have you ever experimented with those?
Not really. I never, really off-season with me, I've never really been a big supplement user. I might stick with a basic protein powder, maybe a carbohydrate drink, but when it comes to protein, you know, maybe a multivitamin, but a lot of the other stuff I never really got into. As I said, I got a high natural level of testosterone anyway, so boosting it to me doesn't really do anything. When I tried testosterone once, I used cypionate, and I actually got weaker. So I actually found my natural level being as high as it was actually benefited me more than actually taking the synthetic stuff. So Every time when I tried that once, my weights just went down and everything. As soon as I got off it again, my strength came back up. So
prior to an event, it's mostly anabolic substance. Yeah. None?
Not really. I hardly use any androgenics at all.
No androgenic material whatsoever?
No.
Interesting. Well, it seems like, to me, it seems like your approach to bodybuilding and drug use is reminiscent of my era when I was competing in the 80s. It was something that was like almost not as predominant, not, I mean, some of the guys I interviewed so far today talked about chemical warfare and, you know, $100,000 a year and the risks of insulin where you could, you know, go into comas and things. And I mean, I was like sitting there going, oh my God.
I'm more of the believer. I've always been the believer in hard training, proper nutrition. Like I said, the mental side of getting your mind focused. And to me, steroids are maybe like a 5%, even if that. It's more like an aid rather than, so many people rely on them as a crutch, you know, to get them through and take them all the time, you know. I'll be training with people like, we'll be going heavy and they can't go heavy. Like, well, I'm not on anything right now. I'm like, well, what excuse is that? They're like, well, you know, I'm not on drugs right now. I can't train heavy. It's like, you know, to me, you know, a lot of my best lifts I've been, you know, it's like when I take drugs, I don't use them to get strong or get big. It's always like I just use them for an aid to get ready for a contest to help me recover, stuff like that. Whereas people these days, it's like more of a crutch they want to lean on. They want to take large amounts to help them train. Whereas, you know, where I come back from before, when I started off training, it was always the hard work, the dedication. You know, sure, you might use a little bit of drugs, but it's just like to aid you get there. It's not going to help you make you a champion. So I just believe in the hard training more than the drug side. Whereas these days, some people want drugs before they even start training. So
yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, in terms of our younger viewers, up and coming guys watching this tape, what would be your advice to them in terms of? I mean, you already said more is less in terms of your own approach.
It's one of those things, like no matter what sport you're doing, try and do it your best you can without them. Then if you think you do need to use them, or you know you've looked into it, you know, I would say at least 4 or 5 years on any sport. You know, whether it be football, running, whatever. You know, at least try and do your best you can naturally. You know, but then it's going to come to your personal choice if you want to use them. And then if you do use them, just suggested dose. You know, if it's just suggested dose is 1 cc, just take that. You know, and it will probably work for you. That's what I've always found. I've always just stuck to what I've felt worked for me. Whereas people have come up to me and said, Lee, you should be taking this and that. And,
all right, we'll
you
get
know,
that
okay. But then they'll say you should be taking, you know, 1,500 milligrams. But I'm like, why? I said, you know, 200 milligrams works. Why take any more? You know, but people mainly take more because it's more hearsay more than anything. You know, they hear this guy's taking that, they hear this guy's taking this, and they won't keep. You know, well, if he's taking, I'd better take it to keep up with him. But yet, you don't need to. If the small amount works, stick to it. You know, but it always comes down to, well, like when someone does their first course. Personally, they don't know themselves, but they're too scared to ask their doctor, or someone around them doesn't know, so they might ask the gym who's using, you know, tons of drugs, what should I take? And that guy will say, well, you know, take 1,000 milligrams of this, take 5 of these, take some of this. So their first course, they start off on this large amount, and from then on, all they use is large amounts, large amounts. If they had to start off on a small amount, they'd find they get the same gains as the large amount, but yet their mind's now set on this large amount. They've got to keep taking more and more if they want to get bigger and bigger, which is the case.
So what do you account for the reason we're seeing such tremendously, yourself, such tremendously large physiques on the stage today? I mean, when I was competing in the 80s, you're over 200 pounds, and in the 70s, you're over 200 pounds, you're big. Now, you guys are getting close to 300 and 3% body fat.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's still, you know, maybe genetics of people coming along.
Okay.
Maybe nutrition's changed a bit, you know, like, you know, back in the early days, it was more of the higher fat foods and the milks and this, but now it's more the diets are changing, and then even training's changing. But you know, probably just kind of genetics, different body types coming through and that. Whereas even back then, you had the freaks back then for the day and age. But now it's like maybe if you guys were training now, you too would probably look the way some of the guys do now. So that's one of those things that might be. You know, I can't really say drugs because drugs have been there for a long time too. You know, they've always been there. Sure, there's got the more growth hormone now and that, but I don't think growth's a wonder drug that's going to add that much muscle. You know, make someone 40, 50 pounds heavier than they would have been without it. You know, it's going to add a little bit, but, you know, it's nothing that serious where drugs are going to change someone's whole completely. So I think it's the various of things, you know, training, nutrition, everything, genetics. So the whole makeup, you know.
So, in your opinion, you would tend to believe that, or you're stating that genetics, basically we're getting better genetics in the sport, which accounts largely or almost, that's the main reason that we're seeing.
I think so too, because the sport this day is much bigger than it was back then. So back then you only had like a small group of people that did it, which was still a large number, but these days the group of people is getting bigger and bigger. More body types are coming into it, so you're seeing the more freakier type coming in, whereas back then, as you said, you say you only had 50 people doing it back then, now you've got 200 people. Out of that 200, there's going to be maybe 2 or 4 freaks that come out of it, so you're going to see more people because there's you know, such a like varied type of physiques these days, whereas now you've got a couple of thousand doing it now, getting into the hundreds of thousands. You're going to have the odd freaks come out of the woodwork who just, you look at them and you go, wow, what's he taking? But yet, he's probably not taking hardly anything. Like you see those some back in the, you know, in the farms, you know, you see these homebred farm boys, you know, they're massive. All they do is lift, you know, bales of hay and all these sort of stuff onto the trucks and, you know, work around the farm, but yet naturally, they're naturally big. If they started training, they could be a freak, you know, maybe 5 or 6 years. So just I think there's more people into it now, so you're seeing the various types of physiques. So the larger number of people do it, the more people that do it, you're going to have more people coming out. But even now, when you look at the bodybuilding today, out of the top lineup of, say, 15 Olympians, out of the top lineup of Mr. Olympia contest, there's 15 people. You might only have 4 that are really like, you look at and say, wow, he's a freak. The rest have got great physiques, but yet 4 of them might stand out as being like out of this world. So naturally people say, well, he's taken a lot of drugs to look like that, whereas, you know, they're going to have that genetic freak in any sport. You know, like Michael Jordan in basketball, people can call him a freak for the way he can fly, get all those baskets, you know, come to running. You got Ben Johnson, Carl Lewis, the times they can put in running, you know, it's just because they're built for that sport. So sometimes you're going to have people who are built for this contest, built for the sport, and they're going to be the best at what they do. And then people are going to always label it, you know, drugs because no one else can do it, but yet they're maybe just built for that sport.
I see. Have you ever experimented with, or do you have a need to experiment with blocking agents of any kind?
No, I've never used them, never tried. Never really had the need to use them, so.
How about things like testosterone enhancing drugs?
No.
Nothing like that?
Never.
So you have a very basic approach to this.
Even my training is basic, and I stick to the basic exercises. Diet, I've always stuck to the basics. I think that's where people go wrong sometimes. They might read magazines, listen to people and try and get too scientific, whereas, you know, weight training itself isn't really a scientific sport. It's like, you know, you do the hard work, you lift the weights properly, you get enough rest, you get the nutrition. Eventually you will start growing and see results, but people want it overnight. That's what they're making. Whereas bodybuilding and lifting weights is a long-term sport. It's going to take years before you might even put 10 pound on. You know, but people want it overnight, so they're going to take drugs and think, well, I'll take drugs, lift the weight, sit back in a chair, tomorrow I'll be big again. So it doesn't work that way. So if you expect that, you may as well not do it. You know, it's just stupidity. If you've got the time and you want to put the time into it, training, you know, you've got the dedication, that's all it takes is time. So you just got to sort of sit back and train hard and do the proper what you need to do. And if you're going to use drugs, do it sensibly, but just, you know, give it time. You're not going to, the more you take, you won't get any bigger. So it just comes down to sensible, really, and just, you know, go by what you believe in, because really most majority of people know what works for them, but yet they won't listen to other people too much. You know, there's going to be people out there going to lead you astray and everything, but it comes down to, you know, your own, what you feel inside, and you know whether it's right or wrong, or if it's too much. But, you know, don't go along with the crowd, just do what you feel is right for yourself. You see a lot of guys who do take heaps of drugs and go into the gym. They don't be lifting all these weights, but yet as soon as they come off the drugs, they're back down. You know, maybe to like 200 pounds, they go on the drugs, they blow it up with water to 250. Then that's it. Who wants to be like that? You know, you puff up, you go down. Then I see guys who are using drugs, and you look at me like, does he lift weights? And he's probably, you look like he's never lifted a weight in his life, but yet the list he'll give you what he's taken. So it just comes down to, like I said, well, it's more of a mental thing to me. Training's like I go by how I feel. If I feel strong that day, you know, some days I've benched 5 plates, 550, but I won't expect that every day. These guys do, and then they get injured. Like, I go by how I feel. If I go in the gym, bench 5 plates, that's great. If I go in the gym the next time to do chest and I get the 3 plates and it's heavy, I'll stop at 3 plates. And I listen to my body more than anything, whereas people are like, I did 5 plates last time, I'm going to do 5 plates again. So I get the 3 plates is heavy, add the weight on, then something's going to tear and something goes wrong. So it's like, that's one of those things you got to listen to yourself, really. It's like, it's an individual sport. Sure, you're going to have people that can help you train, you're going to have training partners, you're going to have people prepare you for shows. When it actually comes down to it, it's like you knowing your body the best. Whereas like in your sport now, there's people out there who say they can help you get ready for shows and this, but if you've been doing it long enough, you know what works for you, you know what gets you in shape, you know what gets you strong, you know what you have to do, so it's more like listening to yourself.
It's very refreshing to hear that one of the, you know, the very, very top guys in the world stating simply that this is the way it is, that I don't use that much. In fact, I spend next to nothing compared to what some of these guys use. It's very refreshing to me, and I'm sure some of our viewers won't believe you.
Yeah.
Okay, like you said, but nevertheless, I want to thank you for coming here and sharing the reality of the issue.
Like I said, it's going to come down to a personal thing, but I just recommend if you are going to do it, and it comes down to your personal thing, think about it. If you are going to do it, as I said, start on a small amount. I guarantee you'll get the same results. Don't start on a large amount, and if a small amount works, stick to that, you know. Sure, the guy selling it might tell you to take more and more because he wants to get the money out of you, but, you know, you don't need it. It just comes down to how you feel. And then everyone's in the sport for longevity too, so you know, you want to be around your 60, 70, you know. Who wants to win a show and age of 50 die, or age of 45 turn over and die, so that's not too healthy. So
most definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. At what point in your career did you realize that you needed or felt compelled to utilize steroids?
I think there's, you know how any professional sport, you know, what it is that compel you to do that is the competitiveness inside of you, you know, wanting to win. And, you know, we all start at an early age, so you're young and kind of hothead. You know, the only thing you care about is number one. So if someone gives you anything or tell you about anything that's going to give you that edge, you'll do it. So, you know, for myself, that was what it is, just, you know, just wanting to win.
At what age did you start taking
I was 23.
Okay. I'd like to, I know these are sensitive issues and you're not used to talking about it, but again, your identity is protected, okay? No one's going to know who you are except me, and of course, it will never come from me. Okay. I assure you of that. What specific steroids do you find effective for your training?
Well, I mean, I guess in the off season,
okay,
you know, your basic would be. I always think it's best to stay with the basics. Stay with something that some, you know, American, something that, you know, you can get a prescription from, you know, and go to a pharmacy and get some which would be like any kind of testosterone.
You have the ability to get prescriptions legally and.
Yeah, you can get prescription. Okay. You know, I think there's still some, you know, there's still doctors out there who believe that, you know, regardless of what anyone says, you know, athletes are going to do what they're going to do to win. And they feel that maybe it's better for them to write someone a prescription so they know that what they're getting is real, instead of going on the black market and get something that isn't what it's supposed to be. And, you know, then just get injected into his body and, you know, it does more harm than anything else.
Yeah, I've had people I know injected Armorol into their system and all kinds of things.
You know, so I mean, testosterone is one of your basics, one of the basic things.
What form of testosterone do you find most effective in terms of your regime?
For the off season, I think Subtitles is best. Mix with Deca, which is you know, alcoholic, but also have some androgenic properties in it also. Combined with maybe one oral, maybe Anadrol, something like that, Anadrol 50. You know, maybe 1 to 2 tablets a day, depending on the body weight of the person. You know, so sometimes some people might think that if I want one a day, I get this much. Then if I do 3 or 4, I'll get that much, which is actually, for me, that's actually the reverse. I think it's best to take a small amount of 3, 4 different things than to try to cram two things into your body and overload your system.
Well, along the lines of you're speaking of dosages, I mean, relative to the drugs you just mentioned in the off season, since we're staying in the off season, what would those be like?
I think, you know, for a guy, let's say here, 240 pounds, 400 milligrams to 500 milligrams of Subtitles a week is sufficient. I mean, I've heard stories of guys doing a whole bottle in 1 week. I mean, which is, that's nuts, that's crazy. You know, all you're going to do is, those are the guys you see in the gym who, they're red, you know, they have that bloated look, they have really bad skin, that's a sign of, you know, you're over-toxing your body, and your body's not utilizing it. So it's you know, your body's trying to secrete it, you know, through your pores, you know, so that dosage would be more than sufficient for anyone.
So if you combine that with...
You went about another 400 milligrams of Deca, one to two anadrols a day.
Per week, 400 milligrams of Deca a week.
Yeah, and one anadrol a day. That's more than enough.
Now, how long might you do that during the off season?
I think you would do that maybe, if you don't have to do anything throughout the whole year. If you have a show, you might want to start 16 weeks out. And you would do that for the first, from 16 weeks up to 10 weeks. Once you get to the 10-week period, then you'd want to switch from Deca and from Cypionate. What you want to switch to is maybe Propionate, which is quicker acting, stays in the system a lot shorter time, goes in a lot quicker, and it doesn't retain all that water. So that would be good. Then you get rid of the Deca and mix that with Primabol and Depot, which is a pure anabolic, and at the same time has no androgenic effect.
And the dosage on the Primo?
And the dosage on the Primo. Primo is very mild, perhaps one of the safer steroid there is. So you could go 500 to 600 milligrams of that per week. You know, you could stick the anadrol in, but what you'd want to do is cycle it. So if you started 16 weeks out, then you'd go 1 month straight and then stop for a month. And then get on again. So you give your system a chance to get a break, and also your body don't become a creature of habit. So it doesn't get adapted to it. You know, and about 10 to 12 weeks out, you could start some growth hormone with that. You know, again, that goes by body weight.
Okay.
You know, and
so what you've used in the past in terms of growth hormone might be?
For myself, I've gone up to as high as an IUs a day. You know, so again, it all goes by the body weight.
Right.
You know, each individual is different. So again, more is not necessarily better. I just felt that a good mixture has always been growth hormone mixed with Primabol and Depot, some kind of testosterone, and that mixed together is a good combination for a pre-contest.
So this is like, again, 4 months out, right?
Yeah, this you would do maybe about 12 weeks out.
Okay, but so the off season you're calling the first month?
The first month, because you know there's no reason. I mean, if you do 2 shows a year, then realistically you only need 12 weeks. So you go on for 12 weeks. It takes you about 12 weeks to get yourself in shape. Once that 12-week time period is up, your show is here. It's over. It's done. You detoxify yourself. You drink a lot of fluid. You take salt palmetto for your prostate. Milk thistle for the liver. You know, I mean, dandelion, all these things. Cranberry pills for the kidneys. And of course, you know, go on always get a checkup before and after every show. You know, which is a safe route to go.
As one of the top guys in the world, you work with a doctor. Like,
yeah. I mean, you definitely want to have someone in your corner who, you know, it's like anything else. You know, if you have cancer, you know, you have to have a doctor that prescribes and tell you what to take, what's the dosage, you know, or any kind of health problem. So if you're going to do something like this, you need someone also who is going to prescribe, and someone who's going to tell you this is too much, this is too little, and you know, point you in the right direction instead of shooting in the dark and going and walking in the dark. You know, it's like going into a room where there's no lights. I mean, you may make it to the other end, but then again, you may not. You may bump into the coffee table. You know, so turn on the lights, see where you're going. You know, the best way to turn the lights on is, you know, go and see someone who you know, is more knowledgeable and not some guru, you know, for say, I mean, but an actual doctor. Yeah.
During the year, is there a particular amount or number of months or weeks that you do not take steroids?
Well, for myself, you know, as one of the top bodybuilders, I only need to compete maybe once a year. So I think, you know, staying off for 7 months, you know, is beautiful. Off for 8 months is great, because no one wants to, sometimes I think people are under the impression that, you know, you enjoy doing this. At this level of the game, it's about making, you know, it's about making a buck. It's about, you know, taking care of your family, paying the bills, and people can't point a finger at you. But in every professional sport, you know, you do what you got to do. When it comes down to your, you know, where it's your family or this, you're gonna choose your family. And if this is your means of making a living, then you do what you got to do to make that living. But some guys don't realize that there's a life outside of bodybuilding. Now, if you have a family, then you realize that. If you have a family, then you realize that you know all the consequences that can come from it. So therefore, you want to stay off for as long as you possibly can. You know, the longer you stay on, the more chance you have of doing harm to yourself. You know, so for me, I enjoy that fact that I can stay off for, you know, 7 or 8 months each time.
In regards to staying off that long, are there exhibitions that arise during the year how do you handle that circumstance?
Well, of course, you know, you do your appearances all year long, hopefully. But I can't let that dictate my health. You know, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, it doesn't mean anything. So, you know, I try my best to stay in decent condition. You know, just by doing at least still 3-4 days a week, half an hour of cardio. Still eat what I want, but watch what I eat, and still train pretty hard. You know, there's no reason, because you're not taking something, mean that you can't go in the gym and put 100% in. Grant you, you don't have the same recovery time.
Without the steroids,
right,
you don't have the same recovery.
Right. It does give you better recovery time. You know, it does help you. I mean, you can get less rest and still go back in the gym and clean 100%. It helps with your joints and stuff like that. So, in that sense, it does do some. You know, there is some benefits to it. You know, at the same time, you're not pushing it on anyone. You know.
So there are definitely some health considerations you're thinking about.
Definitely. I mean, you know, again, like I said, if you don't have a family, sometimes it can make you reckless. Now, if you have a family, it just makes you think twice. I mean, because nothing is worth that, you know, nothing is worth your life. And, you know, it's unfortunate that you have people who, they do stay on all year round, and they're afraid of looking a certain way when they go and make a guest appearance. I mean, if I make a guest appearance, like I said, I try to look the best I can, but if it's not good enough for you, then there's nothing I can do about that. Because you're sitting in the audience and you may be appreciating what's on stage, but you're not really appreciating me as a person, you know, myself as a person. And you have to realize and say, hey, he's thinking about his health. So therefore, he can't be in Olympic condition all year long. You know, basically, you should just be, you know, it's just the fact that you get an opportunity to meet these guys in person, and them coming on stage, you know, they're not at their best, but at the same time, it's just you appreciate the fact that you can't see them all the time. So maybe once in your whole life, you may get to see them right there in front of you. So just take it for what it is. You know, just appreciate them for that moment. You know, you can't, as the athlete, you can't you can't dwell on it when someone says, oh, he looks like shit, and, you know, you're like, hey, I look like shit, but I'm happy, you know. If anything, I'm a happy piece of shit then.
Well, we mentioned steroids and we mentioned the growth. How about insulin? Is that insulin a drug that you believe in using?
No. I just think there's certain places. Sometimes you gotta draw the line.
Mm-hmm.
You have to draw the line. I'm not a diabetic. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for me to be using insulin. Mm-hmm. I think food lets you gain weight. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I mean, you just gotta eat. You know, I think sometimes it's gone a little too far. Mm-hmm. You know, where it seems like everyone is looking for a shortcut. Mm-hmm. And there shouldn't be any shortcut because only the best of the best should be here. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be because of drugs or anything else. It should be because of hard work, dedication, sacrifice, you know, trying to have something live on. Mm-hmm. That guys before myself has worked long and hard and made no money, mm-hmm. you know, mm-hmm. to get, you know, someone like myself to this point where we actually can make a living from it and don't have to work. Mm-hmm. I think it's sad that it's at a point now where people dying. Mm. I think, yeah, a lot of guys from the past, you know, the sport that they built, they see it being in jeopardy, you know, I mean, because of some young hothead who just don't want to go in the gym and do the work or just mm-hmm. don't want to diet long enough, right. You know, so.
You mentioned something earlier, not to take you off this point, because it's a very interesting point. And I appreciate your sincerity and your truthfulness about how you feel about it. But you mentioned GH, you use up to 9 IUs a day.
Right.
Does that go on for months at a time, or?
Well, I don't think anyone can afford to do it months at a time. You know, but
that duration might be?
I'd say about 10 weeks,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Up to the show?
Yeah.
You don't get off prior to the show?
You get off about 2 weeks off from the show, or a week, because it does make you retain some fluid.
So you would stop steroids and growth?
I personally, and I would suggest also, any kind of low base, you know, stop about 3 weeks out. Mm-hmm. Stick more with the water base, which would be like Winstrol Depot, mm-hmm. or testosterone suspension, mm-hmm. which again, anything that's water-based can also be a lot safer because it stays in your system a lot shorter. The lifespan is about 36 hours for the suspension. Mm-hmm. So it's only in your system for 36 hours and it's out, in comparison to something that's going to stay there for months. Mm-hmm. So it has that much, you know,
much longer.
Yeah, much longer time to do damage. Mm-hmm. You know, anything that's water-based doesn't retain any fluid whatsoever, and will still keep it in the muscle. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. The next topic I'm thinking about is diuretics. Is that a part of your program as well?
No, because right now they do testing, you know, in the IFBB, so mm-hmm. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. You know, they eliminated. I think most of the times when athletes get in trouble, it's not from steroids because, you know, from in the past, you've never heard anything happening to any of the guys from back in the 70s, early 80s, you know. Mm-hmm. It's more in the 90s, mm-hmm. you know, with the new crop bodybuilders. Okay. I think what it is they just took the diuretic thing a little too far, and by the fact that the IFBB has implicated now the drug testing at the shows, I think it's cut down a lot of any kind of fatality happening there, anything like, you know. Mm-hmm. So, no, there's no diuretic in the plan, and even for any amateur, I would suggest leaving it alone, because it does more harm than good.
Mm-hmm. So you've never used diuretics prior to a show?
Oh, yeah, I definitely have in the past, you know.
Any problems with diuretics?
None whatsoever, none, you know, that I can, you know, go into, because, but, again, it's hard to, when there's no one supervising, no one medically monitoring, telling you, you know, what's a good dosage? I mean, you know, you're assuming. Now, you're cutting your fluid, you're cutting your sodium, so you don't know when you're dehydrated. I mean, everyone is dehydrated, but to what level? You know, you can be dehydrated and still be fine, but to what level do you dehydrate where it becomes severe? You know, so when I've used any kind of diuretic, it would be aldactone, which really is it's not really a diuretic. It's all it does is cuts off your aldosterone level, which is stops you from when you get nervous, let the water come to the surface of the skin, or the night before you take a diazepam, which again, it's still a diuretic, but it's still a more milder form in comparison to Lasix, you know, or anything injectable or anything like that. Yeah.
Have you ever had a circumstance or a problematic situation which really scared you?
Oh, yeah, I've had moments, you know, that think, you know, where you makes you think twice about what you're doing, you know.
For instance, without indicting yourself.
Yeah, it'd be hard for me to do it without, you know.
Implicating yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are times when, you know, they're in a hotel room and, you know, you can feel like, you know, like a tingle all over your body. You feel like little ants crawling over you. I mean, you look in the mirror and you look incredible. You know, I mean, you look like something out of a desert, you know. But that's when that's at the point where, you know, I think I'm in trouble too. Because it's too much. It's you know, it's too dry. It's the point where how much water is really in your body, you know. And then if you start having a problem in your hotel room with cramping, what's going to happen when you go on stage? Where, you know, the light can be 120 degrees, and you're being called out after call-outs. You know, you start secreting more fluid, which you don't already have. So, I mean, that's a potential right there, you know? Yeah.
Based on some of the drugs we talked about, GH and steroid and the like, on an estimation, your estimate, what would you estimate would be an annual expense to get ready for the Olympia each year?
15,000.
15,000?
Yeah.
I've heard guys mention numbers of, you know, like 100,000.
Oh God,
They
no.
exaggerating?
That's crazy. I mean, why the hell would you spend 100 grand
Yeah.
to make 100 grand? You know? I mean, no. I mean, I've heard guys spend 20,000 and 25,000. You know? I mean, I think you're crazy to spend. You know? I mean, I think I'm crazy to spend 15,000. You know?
I understand.
Because you're not guaranteed anything. You know, so here you are trying to make a buck when you're actually spend, you know, you got to weigh it out and ask yourself, is it worth it? You know, I mean, would I be better off keeping my 15,000 in my pocket? You know, and just be a freak and guest pose and don't ever compete? Or, you know, I mean, I see a time where I ask myself, you know, how did these guys survive? How did you do so many shows in a year? Where, you know, even if they're only spending 5,000, but if you're spending 5,000, you're doing 4 shows a year. You know, I just can't see how it can be healthy. You know, to do 4, 5, 6 shows in 1 year. You know, I mean, it's taking a punishment, it's taking a pounding, you know, but 100 grand.
I mean, how do you account for the fact that you just mentioned, I mean, that, you know, you're naturally a big man, close to 300 pounds, and in my day when I was competing, you were over 200, you were big. You think it's just, you know, genetics nowadays, and with the drugs, or?
It's what's in the water. It's like, look at basketball players and, you know, football players. Just the other day I was watching a football game and they were saying how, you know, they showed you 10 years ago what the average team, what their linemen weighed. And in 5 years, and to now, they've gained 50 pounds.
You think it's mostly genetics?
I think a lot of it is better nutrition, better equipment, you know. I don't know, it just seems like every generation, you know, things change, you know. How do you account for all these basketball players being so tall, you know? I mean, you look at old footage and the guys, they were tall, but now, you know, for a guy to be 6'9" in the NBA, he's a guard. Back in the day, you know, a guard was like 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". When a guard was 6'4", they were like, ooh, he's pretty, you know?
You're right.
And now it's the guy's 6'9". Yeah, he's short. Like, you know, yeah. So it just seemed like, I mean, nothing ever stays the same, and you know, every generation, it just seems like it just keeps evolving, you know.
I think some people, you know, that view our sport, especially the guys, you know, that are up and coming, think it's genetic. It's not necessarily genetics exclusively. It's more like the better drugs, designer drugs, chemical warfare, and but from your point of view, you feel it's more genetic.
I think genetics is everything. I mean, it's either you have it or you don't. You know, you've seen guys where you go in the gym and you've taken off 2-3 months from training. You know, you drop 30, 40 pounds, and you come back and you pass them, and there they are in the same position. They haven't moved one bit. You know, some people have it, some people don't. I think the guys who are good, with or without any drug, they're going to be good. You know, number one, they just have you know, they have, their heart is in it. You know, if you're half-assed and coming in thinking that, you know, well, I'm going to take drugs and I'm going to be like one of the top guys. No, you're going to be one of the scrubs. You know, I mean, that's all there is to it. I just think some people, you look at some bodybuilders and you just don't have the heart to tell them, buddy, you don't have it. Well, bodybuilders, I don't know what kind, they need glasses, most bodybuilders.
Maybe the judges.
I know. Because
How about like things like masking agents? They only test for diuretics, from what I understand right now. Are there masking agents that, well, you don't usually take diuretics?
Actually, you know what? I don't know if there's anything to mask it, to be honest, because, I mean, I've heard some people say drink vinegar, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
we used to do that.
I heard people say drink vinegar, you know? But you're so scared that you don't want to. I mean, if you remember, you know, there was the 1996 Mr. Olympia, you know, where certain athletes fail, you know, and place second, you know, and have to lose that place, you know, to be second, to, you know, in the Mr. Olympia, I mean, to me, is just as good as winning it, because it could have been a 1-point difference. You know, it doesn't mean that because those 11 people picked that one guy's Mr. Olympia doesn't mean that it couldn't have gone the other way, you know. So when you look at it, you know, it makes you think, do I want to be that, you know? So isn't it, it's better just to diet a little harder, do a little more cardio, and come in shape. I really don't think you need diuretics, to be honest. I think if you're in shape, you know, you're in shape. Because I've seen guys do it. I mean, you see guys in the gym all the time where you look at him, they're just the average guy, but he's so shredded. He looks so dry, you know? This is just an average guy working out, working hard. He works he has a 9-to-5 job. He may have a wife and kid at home, but he just comes in the gym and he trains his ass off. And you know, if he can do it, you know, why can't guys who don't have a job and their job is just to train, you know, why can't they do that? You know, so I mean, even if there was a mask, even if there was something to mask it, I think most pros are too afraid. Too afraid to try it. You know,
even though they were used before a lot.
Yeah, and I've heard them say it. You know, that they're afraid. You know, they don't want to go that route. They don't want to be the one. You know, 'cause that's a big scandal. You know, at the same time, they don't want to embarrass their friends, their family, and themselves. So it's, you know, the best thing is to leave it the way it is with the testing and figure out the diuretics.
Continuing along the line of other agents, is there anything you found effective, like escalene, injecting it directly into the muscle, any of those kind of products?
I've tried it. I've tried to stay clean. But,
There's some new one I think I've heard mentioned.
oh, yeah. Yeah, now everyone is big on pumping toes or whatever you want to call it, you know. See, you know, again, to me, that's just too far, you know. I mean, because that's not real, you know. Bodybuilding is about, it's you, it's about you, it's about your body. It's to show how, you know, how far you can take your body, just what you can do with your body. I mean, you know, like guys putting in calf implants, you know. How can this be bodybuilding, you know? This is more like, you know, body making. It's like someone making a body like you're some kind of a sideshow, you know?
I know.
I mean, I'd rather have, you know, 19-inch arms than pump something in it to put to 21. Because, you know, how am I going to feel? I didn't work for this. This is not mine, you know? And some guys feel good about it and look in the mirror and say, wow. And it's still not the same. It's not the quality. It doesn't have the quality, you know? You can look at the arms and see that, you know, it's been enhanced. Like something else is in there, you know, the calf. Most guys, there are a lot of guys putting in their shoulders. You know, I've heard of guys putting in their back. You know, I mean, I'm like, either you have it or you don't. Now, when you have to go to that extent, it's just too far. You know, that's where you have to draw the line and ask yourself, you know, are you willing to go that distance? You know, me personally, I'm not. You know, I mean, it's actually injecting fat into the muscle, which also can be, I mean, extremely dangerous. You know, I mean, here we are, we're supposed to be so healthy, and you're injecting fat in your body. So what's that going to do? Give you high cholesterol? You can make clogs up your artery? That's a heart attack right there. You know, I mean, there's so many things that they, you know, they could give themselves a blood clot right there if they inject it wrong. You know, so.
How about things like we read about in the magazines, like roid rage, and is that really?
I've never believed in it.
Okay.
You know.
I'm a pretty mellow person, and you know, I choose to do this. You know, it wasn't a means to an end. It was what I wanted to do. You know, so when I diet, you know, I can't get mad at anyone because at any moment I can quit. I can just say, okay, that's it. I don't want to do it anymore. And I can walk away. So therefore, when I go in the gym, why am I going to have an attitude of people? You know, I grant you, when you're dieting, you do have your own frustration. You know.
I remember.
Yeah, you know. So basically, what I do when I go in the gym, I hold my head down, I put my hat on, I put my game face on. You know, and it's up to all the individuals around me to give me that respect to realize that, you know, I'm a professional. I'm here to do a job. I can't come to your workplace and harass you. So when I'm at my job, don't harass me. And if you come up to me, I will tell you to leave me alone, but I don't have to be rude. I can be polite about it, you know. Or I've heard about guys who, you know, going off on their girlfriends, going off on their wives, and, you know, I mean, that's your team. You know, because in bodybuilding, it's not a team. It's not like a football game team, you know, where you have, you know, 40-something guys in a roster. The only person that's on your team is either your girlfriend or your training partner. You know, your training partner is like your wife. You know, he's better be there every day. You know, he's got to call you, he's got to wake you up. You know, he's got to keep you from shitting. You know, so how can I go nuts on these people? You know, they're the people that's in my corner. I just think roid rage is just someone who is an asshole from day one, and just have an excuse, you know, because, you know, everyone says, oh yeah, this will do this to you and this will do that to you. I just think it's all you. It ain't about anything else. I have so many friends who we're all on the same level, and we still hang out every day and diet. Still play our games and still go out to eat and go see a movie together, hang out and just discuss everything that we're doing. You know, of course, as the show gets closer, anything what happens is you become extremely quiet, you know. And that's because you're tired, you don't want to talk, you don't want to talk. Or if you want to talk, you want to talk to another athlete, you know. I mean, because he's going through the same misery, or he's been there, so he knows what you feel, but you don't want to talk to just the average individual, you know. So I don't believe in roid rage.
On a closing note, and you've given a lot of words of wisdom and advice to our viewers in terms of their approach to the sport. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your comments already in terms of your suggestions, in terms of drug use or non-use? Or
Well, I mean, I would never advocate use of any kind of drugs whatsoever, you know, recreation or whatever, drugs is drugs, but, you know, no matter what I say, because no matter what anyone said, I was still going to do it no matter what. Only thing I could add is, you know, if you're going to do it, just keep in mind that more is not better. You know, don't just go out there and pick up something and stick it in your body. You know, try to educate yourself. You know, for youngsters, you know, I think it's, you know, give your body a chance to grow on its own. You know, don't think that because you take it, it's going to make you into one of the top bowlers. There's no guarantees that that's going to happen. You know, so just be careful, and, you know, the safest thing to do is, you know, get a checkup. You know, at least 2 checkups a year. Get your blood work done so you know what your liver enzyme is, your kidneys, prostate, because too much of this wrong, that's why you can give you prostate cancer. So, you know, I mean, and as long as, if you do this, then at least you minimize the risk of getting hurt. I'm not saying you won't get hurt, I'm not saying you will get hurt. I mean, guys do it and walk away healthy, and, you know, for them, you know, all they can see is just thank God that that happens for myself. I pray to God every day that, you know, I can do this and walk away and have my health intact.
Well, I'm following you completely. You know, since one thing that came to my mind just now was blocking agents and things like that. Does that ever play a role in your training? Since this, we're trying to basically talk about, you know, the issues in terms of drugs and estrogen blocking agents.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's 2 blocking agents. There's Novadex, which a lot of guys use. I've used myself. Personally, I prefer Proviron, you know, which is also another blocking agent.
And dosage related to body weight?
Again, the dosage, you know, for myself, I've gone up to as much as 4 to 5 a day. But that would be maybe 2 weeks out from the show.
I see.
You know?
2 weeks out from?
Yeah.
And after the show?
Before.
Before the show, okay.
Because you're trying to lower your estrogen level as much as possible. I mean, as time going on, I actually didn't use any estrogen blocker at all.
Is there anything used to enhance natural secretion of the pituitary in terms of testosterone after the event? Like HCG, Clomid?
Yeah, I've used HCG, you know, Clomid, you know, probably for about a month straight, trying to bring your own natural testosterone level back down.
And again, dosage to body weight, but your dosage?
The thing is, everything should always go by body weight. You know, always keep in mind that, I mean, more is not better. Also, another subject that, you know, we should touch on is thyroids.
Okay, good.
You know, I mean, again, you know, thyroid is not something to be joked with, you know, because that can leave you totally messed up and all said and done.
Do you find that as a part of your program?
Definitely, you know. Personally, I like cider mill.
Cider mill?
Yeah, 7 weeks out from the show, you know, I'll go up to as much as 100 microgram, which again,
per day.
Yeah, which you don't want to, you know, again, you do that about 7 weeks out, and you pyramid up, and you pyramid back down.
I see.
So you want to start off with 1 a day for at least 2 weeks, up to 2 a day, stay there for a while, up to 3, and the last 3 weeks, then you would go up to 4, trying to get rid of any little help to enhance getting rid of any fat.
Do you do a pyramid approach or regressive system with steroids as well?
Yeah. Nothing should be stopped cold turkey.
Okay.
you know.
So when you stop the steroids, as you mentioned prior to the event,
you pyramid down.
You pyramid down.
Yeah. So you pyramid up, you pyramid down.
I see.
I mean, a good example would be, I mean, if what happens if you slam on the car brakes? Just if you're going 90 miles an hour and you jam on your car brakes, you know, you may fly through the window. That's a possibility. It may stop and you may be okay. So it's the same thing with the steroids. You could, you know, it would be like going 90 miles an hour where you're taking this and you're taking that and you're taking this high dosage, and out of the blue you just stop. You know, then what's the effect of that? You know? So it's better to gradually let your body adapt to that. Let your body adjust to what you're doing.
Is there a certain weekly, you may have already mentioned this already, is there a certain weekly milligram total of steroid you would look at in terms of being a high dosage for you? As you pyramid up and pyramid down.
A high dosage would be, I mean, 600 milligrams of testosterone, 600 milligrams of DECA, 2 anadrols, 9 IUs of GAA.
The highest level.
That's my highest
I see.
level.
And prior to that, you would work up to that and work down.
I'd work up to that and work myself back down. Again, like I said, for my personal thing, I'd rather do, you know, 4 different things together. You know, because sometimes certain things interact better. One thing makes the other thing work better. It's like growth hormone and testosterone. Testosterone with anadrol. You know, everything helps the next one that bit more. So instead of cramming a ton of it all at once, again, let your body utilize it, you know, gradually. Let it work more efficiently. It'll, you know, in the long run, you'll find that it'll be a lot safer. You'll get more out of it. Because when you put too much in your body, it's like trying to study for a test, and you try to cram it all in one night. You know, you can't do it. You forget all about it. So you're like, oh, you get frustrated. It's the same thing with your body. You try to cram too many things in, you shut your body down. You know, but if you study a little today, a little tomorrow, a little the next day, gradually it'll all come to you. Same thing with that. If you put a little in today, a little in tomorrow, you know, gradually, step by step, you'll get what you're looking for without really totally just messing yourself up.
In regards to amount of calories you eat a day, and protein, carbohydrate, fat ratios, I mean, is there a system you follow?
Yeah, I always tell people, but believe it or not, there is some method to all this madness. And sometimes it does. I say madness because sometimes you think about it, it doesn't sound logic, you know. I mean, in the off season, which would be when you're not concentrating on a show or anything, I don't usually think about what I'm eating. I don't think about the calories or protein or anything like that. But in preparation for a show, then yes, I do concentrate on the amount of protein and fats, carbohydrates I take in.
What's it like before, when you're thinking about a show, what would be the caloric intake per day?
About, getting ready for a show, about 4,000. About 4,000 calories a day.
And then as far as protein?
Which would consist of chicken, you know, steak, turkey. Again, mixing my protein. So I'm getting protein from different
sources.
So, yeah, source of food groups. Carbohydrate.
How many grams of protein a day?
Anywhere from 450 to 600.
Wow.
Yeah. You keep the carbohydrate low though.
Okay.
Carbohydrate would be about anywhere from 100 to maybe 200 a day.
It's prior to an event.
Yeah.
The off season.
You don't even care, you know. So the carbohydrate would be very low.
How about the fat intake?
And you keep your fat intake. You do need fats. You need all food groups. You need fats, you need the carbs, you need the protein for them to work in conjunction together.
Any idea of how many grams?
So probably, I'd say about 75 grams of fats to 100 grams of fats.
It's a very high protein, low carbohydrate sort of diet you follow.
Yes, high protein, low carbs, a moderate amount of fats, which your body does need, you know, for the lubricant, for the joints, the internal organs and all these things, you know.
Another point I wanted to address with you would be, so many times in the magazines we see a lot of top bodybuilders endorsing, I don't want to mention names, but endorsing this product and this product is the magic substance or the solution to, you know, steroids and real in other words, the real drugs. In other words, nutraceuticals comes into play. I mean, are there nutrient-type situations or compounds or nutraceuticals that really do work? What do you think about that?
There's a lot of products, I mean, that do work. I think a couple of years back, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, nutrition wasn't as good as it is right now. But I mean, I'm a firm believer in protein drinks. You know, I mean, you have a lot of athletes who don't have big appetites, and the way they get their calories in or their protein is by, you know, the protein supplements. You know, whether it's in a package or, you know, in a container, whichever way they do it. But, and of course, you do need vitamins, minerals, all these different things, antioxidant to flush out the body. I mean, B vitamin is one of the best vitamins, you know, you can get. Then combined with your vitamin C. So there's a lot of products out there. There's some products that I really don't know too much about, you know, because I never stopped to take the time to educate myself on it, because I don't think it's something that is 100% must for me. But I do believe that multi-mineral, vitamins, B complex, you know, my proteins. Yeah, I do believe 100% in all the basics, you know, chromium, all the things that were there 20 years ago, that are still here right now. Only it's just been enhanced this much better because the technology is so much better. I totally believe in those 100%.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.